Again, welcome everybody. My name is Ricardo Avitia. I am an assistant director in the Office of Undergraduate Admissions. I've been in the office for about 6 years now, and so I'm very, very well versed with the Berkeley campus, as well as just all of our admissions requirements. I'm also an alum of the university, class of 2006. I was an English major with an emphasis in multicultural literature, and I just really kind of learned a passion in not only reading about stories that were particular to folks that I identify with in my culture, but also sharing my own stories and writing stories of my own. And I got to do a lot of that because of my experience as a Berkeley Golden Bear. I'm not from the Imperial Valley, but I am from the Central Valley, from a small town, Mendota, California. And so if you're not familiar, it's a super, super small town, very similar in terms of like the demographics to Imperial Valley. You know, a lot of agriculture, a lot of farming, a lot of work in el campo, a lot of, raza out there as well, Mexicano, Salvadoreño. And again, like that relatability and that experience from coming from a rural area to Berkeley is something that I'll talk about throughout the presentation today as well. So let's go ahead and get started, and we'll start with, just, if I can get my mouse right here. We want to start with acknowledging the land that we're on. And this is a land acknowledgement, and I encourage all of you to consider looking at what native land is in the area that you're at. And so we take a moment to recognize that Berkeley sits on the territory of Huchun, the ancestral and unceded land of the Chochenyo Ohlone, the successors of the historic and sovereign Verona Band of Alameda County. This land was and continues to be of great importance to the Ohlone people. We recognize that every member of the Berkeley community has and continues to benefit from the use and occupation of this land since the institution's founding in 1868. Consistent with our values of community and diversity, we have a responsibility to acknowledge and make visible the university's relationship to Native peoples. By offering this land acknowledgement, we affirm indigenous sovereignty and will work to hold University of California, Berkeley more accountable to the needs of American Indian and indigenous peoples. And so if you'd like to learn more about the land that you're on, you can visit native-land.ca. And so UC Berkeley is a part of the University of California system. And so, thank you all for making it this far on a Friday late afternoon at 4 p.m. During a week long of all of these different sessions. And so you've probably heard about the UC system. Berkeley is a part of that system. We're located in the Bay Area, up near Davis, being the closest UC to us. And in the Bay Area, there's a lot of opportunity, right? Again, for myself, coming from a small town in Mendota in the Central Valley, there was a lot of things that I was able to experience by being able to engage in the Bay Area. And so, being 20 minutes away from San Francisco, being, 25, 30 minutes away from San Jose, being about an hour to an hour and a half from Sacramento, and even being, a few minutes away from Napa Valley, really allowed me as a student to kind of engage in the culture and to embrace it. So there's a lot of opportunity in the Bay Area, even beyond just Berkeley itself and the academics that we offer. There's a lot to engage in. There's a lot of history in the Bay Area as well. And I know that it allowed me, just kind of from a personal standpoint, to really grow. It allowed me to find who I was and what I was passionate about. And it allowed me to fall, right, and kind of scrape my knees. And, it was the first time being away from home and being away from familia, right? And so I really cherish that experience of being able to venture out and go into a university that was in a much bigger city. Our Berkeley students are a key part of why we are considered among the top public universities in the world. The students' innovation, our passion for public service and academic success really are the story of Berkeley. And so I tell students all the time, like, we need you, meaning Berkeley needs you as students more than you need Berkeley, because you all make Berkeley. You all are what contributes to the prestige of Berkeley. And so, students have different experiences, but we at Berkeley facilitate opportunities for you as a student to really discover yourself and to thrive. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about our campus that I particularly enjoyed as a student was it did kind of challenge me, but it also allowed me to really research and get involved deeply in things that I was passionate about. And so here's Berkeley's story through the lens of our students, right? And so we want to start with saying that Berkeley students are scholars, right? Our students pursue knowledge both inside and outside of the classroom walls. And our students really challenge the status quo and learn from each other. And one of the great things about Berkeley is that we are a world-renowned institution. And so we do get students that attend Berkeley from all over the world, and to be able to engage with these individuals, and especially like myself, like I grew up for the first 17 years of my life surrounded by 99%, Mexicano or Salvadoreño. And my first, work study job at Berkeley was working in the International House. And so, to be able to engage with students from other cultures, with other traditions, and to be able to feed off of that knowledge was something special. A lot of students come into Berkeley knowing what they want to major in, but many don't, right? But the one thing that our students do have in common is that y'all come with a passion to learn and a drive to succeed. And that's really what we're going to be looking for in the application when we're reviewing students, is students that have that passion to learn, right? And that drive it. It's not so much the students that have, the best, grades and the most rigorous courses, and as much as that stuff does help and add value, we're really looking for students that are passionate and have that drive to succeed. Some of our academic programs, or all of our majors, are broken up into 5 different colleges and 1 school. And so we'll start with the College of Letters and Science, which is listed up here first. And the College of Letters and Science is our largest college that has around 75% of students, and it's a liberal arts college, right? So there's majors in arts and humanities, social sciences, physical and biological science, interdisciplinary studies, which is just another fancy way of saying that you can create your own major. The College of Letters and Science is where I got my degree from. It's where the major, the English major, was housed. And it allowed me, to really kind of dabble in a bunch of different fields. I came into Berkeley as an intended business major. And my whole idea was I wanted to, own a business and be a billionaire, and had all these big dreams. But when I got to Berkeley, I took a business course and realized that it wasn't what I really kind of thought and expected it to be. And so I was able to take a bunch of other courses in anthropology and psychology and sociology and ethnic studies, and learn about things that I never actually learned in high school. And I realized that in my English courses in particular, my courses that were around multicultural literature, I realized that at that point, I really loved the kind of literature that I was reading as compared to what I was reading in high school, which, in high school, I hated English. So the College of Letters and Sciences is a great option for many students. And again, it does house the majority of our majors. The College of Chemistry is one of the only colleges in the country specially dedicated to the areas of chemistry. And so it provides opportunities and means for you as a student to meet major scientific and technological challenges. Students in the College of Chemistry founded 16 elements in the periodic table, including berkelium and californium. It's a small college, and so it does give you a lot more of that personal one-on-one feel. So it's really a great option for those of you that might be interested in studying chemistry and the sciences. The College of Engineering is one of our more popular colleges. It's also, one of our more competitive colleges, just for the simple fact that there's a lot of demand for this college, right? Again, Berkeley being a world, known institution, we get a lot of students from all over the world that want to come to Berkeley. And so it's not so much that, it's competitive because of grades, but it's really just supply and demand, right? We just have way more students that are interested on our campus than we have, space to accommodate. So College of Engineering is one of those programs that does get a lot of interest. It's one of the top engineering schools in the country that offers a dynamic, interdisciplinary, hands-on education. And so you'll get to do all of the fun kind of research stuff that our students do, but you also have a lot of opportunity to work hands-on and to engage hands-on in the College of Engineering. The College of Environmental Design is also one of our smaller schools, and it also has a great interdisciplinary approach to stuff like architecture, urban design, and sustainable environmental design. The College of Environmental Design is one of my favorite colleges in terms of the physical layout, because they have a lot of the cool technology and gadgets, right? State-of-the-art technology. They got wood shops, they got 3D printers, they got studios, state-of-the-art software. So, when you're building your studio work and building blueprints and models and things of that nature, you have all of that at your disposal, right? And again, those are opportunities that, to me, whether it's Berkeley or any institution, we as students have, right, available to us. And the College of Engineering, the College of Environmental Design does a great job of providing that for our students. The College of Natural Resources, now known as the Rausser College of Natural Resources, focuses on environmental science with majors in health and science. And so those of you interested in kind of protecting the environment and going green and kind of sustainability, this is a great college for you. It's also a small college, and it also has strong options for students interested in pre-med. So if you're interested in going to medical school, CNR, the College of Natural Resources, is a good option as well, because it offers you a very heavy health and science focus, which a lot of medical schools are going to be looking for. And then lastly, we have the Haas School of Business, which is the second oldest business school in the country. It only admits juniors. And so if you're interested in applying to business, you'll actually apply to the College of Letters and Science as pre-business, and then you'll have to apply in your sophomore year to start as a junior. It does only have one major in business administration, but you do have an opportunity to have a concentration in different areas like accounting, marketing, and international business. We do have a couple of specialized programs that Haas offers, one of them being the Management, Entrepreneurship, and Technology program. It's called the MET program. And then we also have the Global Management program and the Biology Plus business program. And those are all great programs that I would highly encourage you all to take a look at if you're interested in one of those fields in combination with business. So Berkeley students are supported, and we offer a wide range of enrichment services for our students. And whether you need support navigating this large campus, just like I did, I struggled with my classes as well. I was the first in my family to go to college. I didn't even have public transportation in my small town. We didn't even have stoplights. There was one traffic light the last year that I was in high school before I left. And so, going to Berkeley, I got lost even just in the community itself, like getting on an actual bus and getting on the BART system, which is kind of like our subway train station system, was all new to me. So there is a lot of support for students, even from that perspective of just kind of the social aspect of Berkeley and kind of getting to know Berkeley beyond the academics. Our students are at the forefront of innovative services, right? Or Berkeley is at the forefront of innovative services, from basic needs to services for undocumented students and disability services. We at Berkeley oftentimes are like the pioneers of these programs. And so like the Transfer Student Center was the first transfer student center in the UC system. Our Disabled Students program was also the first in the system to be offered by Berkeley. Our Undocumented Students program is also one that other UC campuses and as well as other universities across the nation are looking at Berkeley to replicate undocumented student programs on their campus. And so, we take the extra effort to ensure that all of our students have what you need to succeed. And so in terms of support and enrichment, these are just a few places that we like to highlight. One of those being the Center for Educational Equity and Excellence, which is also known as CE3. And this provides students support for students from a variety of backgrounds. So again, the Transfer Center is housed there. The Educational Opportunity Program, which was a program that I was also a part of, and it's for first-gen, low-income, and or underrepresented students. And it provides, kind of a wraparound holistic services. So, personal counseling, mental health counseling, academic advising. At the end of the day, EOP for me was kind of like my go-to in terms of when I had an issue or a problem. I always went to EOP and to my EOP counselors. The Undocumented Students Program is also housed in CE3. And then we have some special programs for system impacted students, so students that, have been impacted by, the prison system, that have family members and parents and brothers and sisters that might be impacted. And we also have students that were impacted themselves, that were, in prison themselves, that did coursework and were able to come to Berkeley utilizing the transfer route. We have the Academic Resource Center, which is our student learning center. So it's kind of like the academic services center where you can get support for tutoring, technology support, any kind of assistance with classes and research, even something as little as like navigating the library, right? Berkeley has one of the largest libraries in the UC system, and to navigate the library, also requires some support sometimes. And so a lot of that is available to our students. And then we also have multicultural student development programs that that work with specific populations of students and provide academic, social emotional support, professional development, community and cultural support as well. And so, for example, like I worked a lot with the Chicano Latino Student Development Office, and they put on a lot of programming that are specific to things that I identified with, like, Dia de los Muertos and El Grito and Dia de la Independencia. Like a lot of the things that I grew up with, I was able to still be a part of because of these multicultural student development offices. And so it really provided me a space to interact with students that were like me, that looked like me, and that shared a lot of the same experience as me. Berkeley students discover, and they discover themselves, through student activities, through engaging and building community. I'll be the first to tell you that I discovered a lot about myself. I discovered things that I didn't like about myself. I discovered things that that I loved. I discovered new things that I never thought I'd have an interest or a passion in. Even something as little as snowboarding. Like, I've never seen snow, growing up in the Central Valley of Mendota. And in Berkeley, we have this event called Calapalooza, where all of our clubs and organizations are kind of out just promoting their clubs and programs. And I remember coming across this Ski and Snowboard Club. And I was like, oh, this is cool. This is interesting. I've never been to the snow. And so I joined the club, and it was really fun. Like, we really just kind of got together. We hung out. And then at the end of the semester, we went up to Tahoe to ski and snowboard. I wasn't too successful at that part of it, so I didn't really enjoy that part, but it was just so beautiful to be able to, like, be in the snow for the first time and to take pictures of the snow, and to share those with my family who also had never been to the snow and seen snow before. So even, things such as that are very small, are things that you'll discover about yourself at Berkeley. We have a lot of research and discovery opportunities, right? Where students can continue to discover themselves. And so participating in research is one way that our students explore interests and discover their passions. And one of those is called the URAP, which is the Undergraduate Research Apprenticeship Program. And this is a program where you work with a faculty member, which is basically a professor who is already conducting research of their own. And so you kind of partner with them and you learn about research, and you learn about what the research kind of process is like and what actually research is. And it's much more than, the research that we commonly do in high school and some of our high school classes, where we might research a particular event in history and talk about that, right? Like, this is research that is really kind of changing the world. And I know in the photo, it looks very scientific, and it looks very like, lab and white coat, and, we got these little petri dishes, but research happens in all areas. And so, if you're interested in research and researching your community, like, that's an opportunity that you can take advantage of. If you're interested in learning about why students in rural areas don't pursue higher education as opposed to students from urban areas, maybe, like, that stuff you can do. Like, anything that you're passionate about, anything that you're interested in, you can research and you can create change in this world. And that's one of the opportunities you have at Berkeley. Haas Scholars is a funded kind of experience, research experience. You can actually get paid to do some research as well on the Berkeley campus, and you can get scholarships for some of this research as well. And so just a couple of examples of some research. We have a student who's piloting a sociological study on the mental and physical health effects of identity denial among people with marginalized identities, right? So again, not very specific to science and technology and engineering and math. Like, there's other things that you can research. We have a student that's researching the race movements in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, including the civil rights movement, the Black student movement, the Chicano, Native American, and Asian American movements of the late 60s, and the white reaction to these movements. So again, anything that you might have been passionate about, you have an opportunity to research on our campus. Here's a slide of another way that students discover themselves, and it's a study abroad. It is by far my biggest regret. I did not study abroad. Hopefully with this pandemic, there's an opportunity when you all go to college to study abroad, wherever you end up going, whether that's Berkeley or another university, really think about studying abroad. I didn't study abroad because I had a very protective mother that was like, mijo, ¿qué te va a pasar? Or ¿qué va a pasar si te pasa algo? What's going to happen? You're in another country. And so my mother was terrified and refused to let me go. And so it is my biggest regret, because I know a lot of friends and students who have studied abroad, and just, they speak volumes on what that experience was like. And so here are a few snapshots of students that are capturing their experiences. We offer, or the UC offers, over 100 study abroad programs in 40 different countries, and you can go to, Europe or Central, South America, Asia, Africa. A lot of these study abroad programs are also like paid for, depending on what kind of financial aid package you receive. Some of this can be financed. And the cool thing about study abroad too is that, you're going on these study abroad trips with other students, students that are similar in age, that have similar backgrounds. And so if you're like me, I have a hard time, even eating lunch by myself. So let alone going on a trip, to another country by myself. And so there's a lot of great advantages. And I know a recollection or a memory that I have of a friend of mine that went to Brazil. And I remember he came back and was showing us photos. And it was a photo of the beach. And there was like a plastic, mesa, the mesa, the tables that we put in our backyards when we're doing a carne, or, somebody's bautizo or whatever. And there was this white mesa. And he was telling me, like, that was their class. He was like, our class was on the beach. He was like, we went to class, we talked for 30 minutes. He goes, and then we had the rest of the day to ourselves. He goes, so, a lot of us stayed on the beach. And so highly, highly recommend study abroad for those of you that are able to take advantage of that. Berkeley students connect, right? So our students are encouraged to connect with each other in campus and in activities and beyond the classroom. And so we have a lot of opportunities for students to connect. And Berkeley is a large campus, right? It's got over 30,000 students, but when you connect in these communities, it makes it a lot smaller. And so, even for myself, I probably, hung out with, no more than like 20 really close friends that like I knew and hung out with like weekly and daily. And then a bunch of people that I just kind of knew, right? And so even though Berkeley was a large campus, I never felt intimidated by it, because I always felt supported with the community of students that I had. And so in terms of student life, our students make connections in a lot of different ways. And one of those, it starts in the residence halls, right? And really starting with our Golden Bear orientation. Our orientation is designed to create programs where you all can connect. And for me, I was in Summer Bridge, which is a really awesome kind of summer program before you start your first year at Berkeley. And that really allowed me to make friends and to meet people, because I was staying in the residence halls, which is basically the dorms, essentially. We do have some theme programs in the dorms. And so we have theme programs that are around different kind of cultures, and so cultural affinities. So for example, myself, I was like, I grew up around a bunch of Mexicanos. I was like, I'm at Berkeley and I want to, put myself out there, and I want to meet, a bunch of different people from all over the world. And so I decided not to stay in a theme program. But interestingly enough, I ended up spending 90% of my time in a theme program, which was Casa Magdalena Mora, right? And Casa Magdalena Mora is a theme program that is designed to house students that have an affinity towards the Chicanese Latinx culture. And so every week there was a seminar where we talked about our cultura and we talked about raza. Every time that there was a major event within our culture, we celebrated that event. And a lot of the students that stayed in this theme program also identified as Chicanx Latinx. And so it really, again, allowed me to feel comfortable and feel like I was with students that shared similar experiences as myself. We have over 1,200 student organizations. So there's literally something for everybody. If there's something that you're interested in, we probably have it. And if we don't, you can always create it. This is where I got involved with the Cal Ski and Snowboard Club. I actually got involved in also like Students for Hip Hop, which was really dope. I got involved in vinyl record collecting, which again was something that just didn't exist in my hometown growing up. Yeah, records that were antiguos, right? For us, it was, CDs and cassettes at that point. So, being able to tap into, this other kind of passion of mine outside of the academics was all possible through being involved in these different student organizations. And so, whatever it is that you're passionate about, whatever it is that you believe in, whatever it is that you want to, kind of fight for, we have available. In terms of athletics, athletics is also one of the really cool things about Berkeley is that we also are very, we're a very prestigious university in terms of like our academics, but we also are a part of the Pac-12 conference. And so one of the things that I enjoyed about my experience was that I got to excel on all of the academic opportunities that Berkeley had to offer, but I also was able to engage in the school spirit side. And I was in school between 2002 and 2006, where our Cal football team was really, really good. And so I have memories of like being out on the field, in triple overtime, and beating USC and running down on the field and, getting a puño de zacate, which I don't know why, because I didn't keep it. But at the time, like, it was like, I want to take a piece of the field, right? And so you get that experience. And we do have, what is it, like 28 varsity athletics. We're a Division I school. Oftentimes you'll see or you'll hear people refer to us as Cal, and Cal comes from our athletic programs, and you can kind of see it on the helmets of the players here. And we got pretty much all major sports. We also have Olympians on our campus, and so you'll see a lot of like, students that were in the Olympics that are walking around campus, and a lot of like future, athletic stars. We also have a lot of other cool stuff too. Like even if, you don't want to participate so much in like, being an athlete itself, we do have ways that you can engage in a bunch of different traditions. And so one of those traditions being what we call the card stunts. And so card stunts, it's I don't think there's a photo on here of it, but a card stunt is if you've ever seen a sporting event where people hold up these cards over their heads and it makes like this huge image with everyone in the stands. Well, Berkeley started that tradition. And so we continue that till this day. We have a lot of traditions, like, for example, our homecoming bonfire, where, there's a huge bonfire that happens before our homecoming game. And then there's opportunities for you to get involved in athletics, even if you aren't necessarily participating as an athlete for the university. And so, I grew up playing baseball all my life, but I wasn't, on the baseball team at Berkeley, but I was able to participate in what are called intramural sports, which is basically students versus students. And that to me is probably like my best memory, because I played on a team that was pretty much 100% raza. Our team name was Osos. Like, we really were proud and orgullosos of like our culture, and to really be able to be on a field with a bunch of other teams and represent Osos on our shirts was just something really special. And I remember my first year, having one Osos team, and by the time I was a senior, we had 5 different Osos teams, because we just had so many students that wanted to be a part of the community, and students that never even played softball ever in their lives, but just wanted a space to interact and engage with other like-minded students. So the Osos I hold near and dear to my heart, and it's an opportunity that again, you have on our campus. Berkeley students are leaders, and so we have a lot of a lot of leaders on our campus, and it's really what we're looking for also in the application is we're really looking for students who are leaders, not just on your school, in your community, but also in your households. And so there's a lot of opportunities and ways that students can get involved in leadership. One of those being the Associated Students of the University of California, which is pretty much our student government. And so if you were interested, or you participate in a government at your school currently, or if you have an interest in doing so, when you get to college, we have that available. And our ASUC is one of the only autonomous student organizations in the country. So our leaders, like our students, are like elected, and there's like a campaign, and there's a time period where all of these different students are kind of like what's happening now in the political world, where students are campaigning about why they should be elected and why they are the right people to serve on the student government. And so it's a really awesome opportunity, because it's students that are elected to tackle issues that are important to Berkeley students, right? So these students are representing the entire student body. We have a lot of public service as well. So, programs on campus that allow our students to go back and be leaders in the community. And so we have things like Build, which is a program where you can mentor youth in reading. We have Calendar Capital, where you can actually intern in Washington, D.C. And we have other programs called like alternative breaks, where you can go and help, communities that might have been affected by natural disasters. So for example, when the hurricanes hit, in New Orleans years ago, we had students that went out there through these alternative breaks and helped support some of the communities that were hit by those natural disasters. We're also a top producer of Peace Corps students, as well as Teach for America volunteers. So again, not only do our students come in as leaders to Berkeley, but our students leave as leaders. And one of the biggest, kind of leadership events on Berkeley's campus was the activism and the engagement, right? And so the free speech movement of the 1960s occurred at Berkeley, and it really kind of ignited that tradition of activism. And you'll see students challenging the status quo, and I think it's beautiful, like when you see students on the campus that are particularly passionate about something, that they fight for it and they advocate for it. And so that's something also that as a student in high school, I didn't get involved with. And when I got to Berkeley and being surrounded by all of these students that had a lot of these passions and shared those passions with me, I too became involved in activism, and I too became involved in fighting for what was right, and fighting for equity for students like myself that really felt like there wasn't a place for me in an institution like Berkeley. And so you do also have that opportunity. Berkeley students are seen, and so we value a diversity of backgrounds and experiences and perspectives from our students. And so again, it's really a place for everyone to discover themselves, and ultimately what our goal is that that you thrive at Berkeley, right? By learning from not just each other, but also from your experiences. And I'll be honest with you, like for me, if you ask me, right, like in terms of recollections that I have, like the learning experiences are probably the things that I remember the most and that I cherish the most, right? Not so much the book that I read or the thing that I learned in the classroom, but more so the life lessons, were things that I remember. And so you'll have that opportunity on our campus. And because this is valued in Berkeley students, we in the admissions office, we also value diversity. And so that's one of the things that we look for in terms of like using this holistic review process is we value all of your experiences, right? It's not just based on your grades and your academics. And I know the previous presenter from UCLA was talking about, really looking at everything about you and using this holistic review. And that's why, because if we simply based our decisions on, grades and GPAs and test scores, which, we're no longer considering, then it wouldn't be fair, right? And our class wouldn't be diverse. And so that's one of the things that we value as well. So a third of our incoming class are transfer students. I know that this presentation is very freshman centric and freshman specific, but we do value our transfer community. I myself am a member of the transfer team in the office. And so I work really closely with our transfer population. And so again, a third of our incoming class are transfers. 76% of our students come from public schools, 26% are first generation. And so myself included, I was first generation, 5% from rural areas. And so we're not just bringing students, from large urban areas and suburban areas, but, we're really looking at these rural areas, and we're really hoping to increase that number, of students from rural areas. And we're a global university. We have students from 74 different countries that speak over 20 different languages. And so again, a lot of opportunity to engage, to learn, even just beyond the classroom, beyond the academics at Berkeley. In terms of just the kind of the financial piece of it, for, students like yourselves that may want to understand the value of getting a Berkeley education, we are top 5 in the best value colleges. And so 65% of our students graduate with no debt. So, that's a big plus for us, right? The fact that, close to 2/3 of our students graduate with no debt whatsoever. About 2/3 of our students do receive financial aid. And we're one among the top universities in the country for upward mobility of students as well. And so, with the financial aid packages, with scholarships, with opportunities beyond graduation, it does allow you to also, even when you get, potentially small little loans like that and stuff, to make those loans feasible and to make them payable when you graduate. And that's evidenced by 80% of our students graduating with either a job offer or an acceptance to graduate school. And Berkeley's also among one of the top producers of CEOs and startups for, students who start up their own business. So again, a lot of opportunity, not just inside of the classroom, but outside of the classroom. And I know that, financial cost is a big thing for many of us. And I want to assure you, right, that not to let finances be the one thing that stops you from considering a school, right? At the end of the day, the application does have a cost. If you qualify for a fee waiver, you can get that application submitted for free. And so at that point, it doesn't really cost you anything, right? So don't let the finances be the thing that stops you from even considering applying, right? If you're able to apply. And then at that point, when schools offer you an admission decision, you'll have a better understanding of what that financial obligation is going to look like, right? How much financial aid is being offered to you, how much loans are being offered to you, and how much you're going to have to pay, out of your pocket. And so Berkeley, as well as the UC system in its entirety, has a really great financial aid package. And then obviously scholarships, right, are just more opportunities for you to help supplement and finance your education. So get on those scholarships. Every year there's millions and millions of dollars that go unclaimed because students just aren't applying for these scholarships. So make sure that you're also putting yourself out there to submit any applications that potentially could help in financing some of your education as well. Just the last couple of slides here, 5 things that you do need to know about our freshman admission is one, that we do use a holistic review. And so it means that we look at everything about you, so both academic and non-academic. And the way I like to describe it to students is, we all have something in common, right? And that's that we all have the same 24 hours in a day. What we don't have in common is how we have to allocate that time. And so in an ideal world, if every single student that applied to Berkeley had 24 hours of their life to dedicate, to their academics, then absolutely, right? Like we would expect, straight A's, and we would expect for you to do really well in your classes. But we know that that's not the reality for students, right? We know that there's students like myself. When I was a student, I was having to work, right, to help finance some of my family's obligations. When my little brother was born, I was then responsible to help, take care of my younger brother. And even things such as like things that we normalize, right? Like I was at a college fair one time, and a young man came up to the table and he asked me a bunch of questions, and then he turned to his mother and he translated to his mom everything that I had said to him. And I asked him, if he was aware that what he was doing is something that he, can add on his application. And he said, no. He's like, I translate for my mom every day. He goes, she doesn't speak English, and so I do this every day. And I explained to him, right, that the mother who was at the table 5 minutes before he got there came to my table and said, hey, I'm gathering information for my daughter who is back home studying for her AP exams. And so I was trying to explain to him that oftentimes we don't think of those things as added value, right? As things that are taking us away from really maximizing our time. And it really does, right? Because this parent who was at the fair gathering information on behalf of their daughter so that their daughter had the time to study for the AP exams was much different than this young man who didn't have that additional time, right? To have to come and advocate for himself and then translate to his parent. So even something like that, right? Something that we oftentimes might just normalize and think like, oh, they're not going to care that I translate for my parents. That stuff is absolutely valuable. And I agree with the UCLA presenter in the sense that we look at everything about you. So it's not just 4.0 students, right? Like I even have a hard time talking about the GPAs, right? Because those are just averages. And so you don't need a minimum 4.0 GPA to get into Berkeley. What we're looking for is students that have that Berkeley spark, right? Students that advocate for themselves, students that are able to look for the support and the resources that are out there to help them be successful. And so that's one of the the beautiful things about holistic review is that we do look at everything about you. We seek authentic and innovative scholars, right? And I think that's important in the process too. Me being someone that has read applications, I use this analogy a lot, and it's very similar to listening to music, right? How many times have we listened to music and it's just kind of on and it's background, and there's times where you bob your head to a song, or you're humming a song, and it's cool, and then there's maybe a song that comes on that you're just like, it just kind of stops you in your tracks, right? And you feel it, or it gives you goosebumps, or te hace llorar, right? Like it gives you something, and you feel that individual, right? You feel their energy and you feel their authenticity. And it's not to say that the rest of the songs you were listening to, you didn't feel that, but there's just something special about it. And that really does happen when we're reading applications. Is you can really feel sometimes when a student is being authentic, right? You can kind of feel that energy that the student is putting into these applications. You can feel that energy even within you sometimes. And so we're looking for that authenticity. And so what we mean is, if you don't use, big words in your everyday language, like, we're not looking for that, right? We're not looking for articulate students and students that sound super smart, right? Again, we're looking for authentic students, right? Students like myself who persevered and who come from disadvantaged backgrounds, but we're still able to persevere and kind of overcome those barriers. And so be authentic with yourself, right? Think about how you want to present yourself on the application. And the way you should present yourself is in the way that you want to present it, not so much in the way that you think we as readers want to see you, okay? We do have a diverse admissions review team with a variety of backgrounds, experiences, and perspectives. And so we are human beings that read these applications, right? It's not like they're processed through a machine and, that there's these kind of quotas. It doesn't work like that. We read every single application from beginning to end, regardless of your GPA and regardless of, all of that's like whatever GPA A through G. I keep wanting to say test scores, but we're not using test scores. But regardless of all of that, we don't have any minimums. We read every application. Your personal insight questions are a great way for us to get to know you. I think that's probably one of the bigger areas where we learn more about you beyond your academic factors. And so really take advantage of your personal insight questions and making sure that you're providing us with that full context about who you are. And then we have a lot of resources available to answer your questions. And so a couple of those resources are here. One is a Discover Berkeley series that is kind of an ongoing series of workshops, similar to what we're doing today. There's going to be some PIQ workshops and things of that nature as well that can help support you with the application. So I highly recommend the Discover Berkeley series. Our online publications are there listed as well. And so again, we're not in person, and generally I'd have a bunch of brochures that you all can take. But because of this virtual environment that we're in, we do have them online. And so I encourage you all to visit those. And then lastly, we have our Berkeley Academic Guide. I saw a few questions come in throughout the presentation about programs like pre-law and political science. Our Berkeley Academic Guide is kind of like our online catalog. And so it has everything that you need to know about the Berkeley campus. And so all of our majors are listed there. And one of the things I tell students is, don't just look at the majors that we offer, but also look at the courses that are offered in that major, because a lot of the UC campus, if not all of them, have a psychology major, for example. But we might all teach psychology differently, right, in terms of the coursework. And so take a deeper dive and look at the courses in there as well. And then there's a lot of information just on different opportunities. You can compare majors. If you're not set on a major, but you're set on like a particular field of interest, you can also narrow it down by field of interest too. So just another awesome resource for you all to utilize as you're kind of researching what schools you may want to apply to. And then lastly is our Discover Berkeley admissions webpage. This is our Contact Us. This is actually, it goes to the regional managers for the area. So if you have any questions, you can submit them there. Those go directly to me. I'm the regional manager for the Greater Imperial Valley, which includes the Imperial County. So any questions that you have, absolutely ask. Like, there's no such thing as a dumb question. There's no such thing as a question that we don't know how to answer. If we don't know how to answer it, I don't know how to answer it. I'll make sure that I can find somebody to help support you. But I think it's very important that y'all ask questions. You know, this is a big decision, right? This isn't like buying a pair of shoes because that's que no me gustaron, I didn't like it, so, you know, let me go and return them. I got 30 days. Like, colleges don't work like that, right? So, you know, while there is opportunity to transfer out of a college, it's not as easy, and it's not as common, right? So when you're doing your research, you know, make sure you're taking the time to ask all of those questions, like even as little as what kind of support do you have for students like myself? You know, what is the culture like for a student like myself on your campus? And what is your university doing to further support students like myself and create more equitable opportunities for students on the campus? And so I encourage you all again to ask any questions via this contact us page. And again, those go directly to me, and it's a lot easier to reach me through there than through email, because my email inbox gets full with a bunch of other work grant related emails. And so the contact us is another kind of query that we look at that I'm able to check. And I pretty much check it daily. So you should get a response pretty quickly. So that's Berkeley. I hope you enjoyed the Berkeley presentation. I believe we're going to have some questions that might have came in. And so I'm more than happy to answer the questions that we might have.
Hey, great. Thanks, Ricardo. We appreciate it. Yeah, if you could hold on for a sec, we have a couple questions that we have for you. And by the way, you are the last university out of 2 weeks. We've literally had over 40 different colleges and universities these past 2 weeks hold down kind of an hour each session. And we're ending it strong with, I want to say, I think you guys are like the oldest university in California, oldest public one. You're the first one in the UC system, if I remember. So we're locking it in with you at the very end. So students, if you've been joining us, you may know the routine. At the end of the presentation, feel free to ask, or even throughout, feel free to ask as many questions as you want. There's a question and answer tab down at the bottom. Feel free to type those in. One came in already. And it says, hey, how are standardized test scores being used? Not so much for admissions. I think we've all kind of heard that it's optional for that, but sometimes they apply for scholarships. How are they being used for scholarships?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I was hoping that question was asked, because I realized I didn't cover it in my presentation. But I want to preface it by saying this. What I'm about to say is specific to UC Berkeley, okay? Because every UC right now, I don't know if there's an across the board confirmation, but for Berkeley, we are not going to be looking at SAT or ACT test scores for any part of the admissions process. And so for Berkeley, we are not test optional, in the sense that if you submit them, we will review them with your application. We are not going to be looking at test scores at all for any student. So that's both SAT and ACT, and they won't be used for application review for admitting students, nor will they be used for scholarships. And so again, that is unique to Berkeley. And so if you're looking at other UC schools, I would recommend you reach out to those individuals just to confirm. But for Berkeley, we are not looking at SAT or ACT scores for any students across the board.
Great. And then also sometimes schools have used those standardized tests like ACT and SAT for placement purposes in like a math or an English class. Presumably your college, your university has placement exams as well for students in those particular things apart from ACT. So you'll take care of it another way.
Absolutely.
Now you mentioned a lot of strong support for essentially kind of cultural life and campus life on campus. And that's assuring to us down in Imperial County when we go off to a new place or a big city and we feel somewhat a little bit out of place. It's nice to know that there's folks who support us. But one of the questions we asked the UCLA representative, we'll ask you as well, because UC Berkeley is just as prestigious and probably one of the most prestigious universities in the whole country. And a fear that many students have is that they get to a prestigious university and they may not be able to handle the rigor academically. What are the type of support programs that are offered for academics, and where could a student find them? Do they cost anything extra? How can a student get to those academic support programs?
Yeah, great question. I would say the largest program, and probably the one that you would want to start with is our Centers for Educational Equity and Excellence, which is ce3.berkeley.edu. And you're absolutely right, is that we are prestigious universities, right? We are, a very academically rigorous university as well. And I'll share my own personal experience. Like, I was that student, in my high school, I was a straight A student. I took, all the honors and advanced courses. But again, I was from a small high school, right? I had a graduating class of 92 and a total student body of about 450 students. And so coming to Berkeley, I was super, super like scared. And I had what a lot of universities now call imposter syndrome, right? And feeling like I didn't belong here. And I remind students that the most difficult thing about a campus like Berkeley is getting in. Once you're in, getting out is hard in the sense that you have to put in the work, but the support is there. And so the Center for Educational Equity and Excellence, for example, has the EOP program. And EOP is designed for those types of situations. And we have a lot of students that are put on what we call academic probation. And CE3 has some really dope counselors that are very passionate and empathetic to their students. And so they create workshops for students that are on academic probation to really kind of hone in on not just like bringing them up academically, but also bringing them up socially, emotionally. And so those services are available. I'll share something personal with myself as well. Like my first semester, my first year at Berkeley, my second semester, I got into some trouble. And it was all because, again, young, coming to a new environment, not really knowing. And I got kicked out of the dorms. And I really thought that my career was over, that Berkeley was done for me. And I felt like a failure, and I had disappointed my family. And so the first person I went to was my EOP counselor. And I spoke with my counselor. And right away, my counselor, first and foremost, validated that what I had experienced and what I went through was okay, that it wasn't, that I messed up, that I wasn't a failure. And then he kind of guided me to all the different resources to support me on the campus. And so that was from meeting with judicial affairs to even university house services and getting some mental health support as well. So we have all the support in the world for the students. Really, the hardest part is getting in, just because of the sheer demand for Berkeley. But getting out of Berkeley is absolutely feasible, evidenced by our graduation numbers and also by the support that we have for students.
Ricardo, you mentioned the demand for Berkeley, and I think you used the phrase, the hardest thing is to get into Berkeley. So in a scenario, now, by the way, most of the students who are logged on a Friday near 5 o'clock are typically the overachieving students, so I'm assuming they'll probably likely get in. However, in the odd chance that you don't get in, I think, I don't know if you mentioned you went through a transfer program, but we have a great community college here in Imperial County. So if a student didn't get in the first time, what are the chances of them getting in as a transfer student if they pick up 60 units at a local community college?
Yeah, great question. And it's hard to say, what chances are necessarily because they're two different processes. But we do have a transfer opportunity, right? We do have a transfer program. I'll be honest with you, like I've been a transfer specialist for 6 years in the office. And I really do think that as a transfer student, you have a little bit more of a recipe book, right? In the sense that everyone wants to know, how do I get into Berkeley out of high school, right? And you've heard it from me, and you've heard it from other reps, where there is no recipe, right? There is no single factor that guarantees admission to a school like Berkeley. Now, on the transfer side of things, even though there's nothing that guarantees your admission to Berkeley, there's a little bit more of a recipe book in terms of making yourself competitive, right? And so there's courses that you have to take, and units and things of that nature that are a little bit more kind of black and white, that allow you to position yourself to be more competitive. And so it is an option, not only for students that are not admitted to Berkeley that apply to high school, but even for those of you that might not be considering Berkeley, right? Even for those of you that might get admitted to Berkeley, life happens sometimes. And it might be that I got admitted to Berkeley and I'm excited and I'm ready to go. But you know what? There was a wrench thrown in my life that now I have to stay closer to home for whatever reason. And so now I may want to go to the community college to then transfer out. So I am a huge advocate of the transfer process. I will say if you're planning on transferring, talk to a counselor early, because it's very common for students to get caught up in this transfer process and take longer than usual to transfer, right? And while there's no, set time by when you need to transfer, meeting with the counselor early on can kind of help create that pathway so you have a good idea of when you're going to transfer, and so that you can also transfer in a timely manner. So absolutely, transfers are valued on our campus, and something that we look forward to. And if you do end up going to Imperial Valley College, I'm also the rep for that school too. And so you can also contact me your first semester at Imperial Valley, and we can also sit down and go through a plan. I've worked as a counselor at a community college as well, so I'm very familiar with a lot of the coursework and kind of what they call the student educational plan. So more than happy to work with transfer students as well.
Great. Now, so real quick, when you mentioned transfer students and you recommend them meeting with a counselor as soon as possible, that's a community college counselor once they get there, because there's coursework, a bit of an educational plan once they get to IVC that will align them with getting to Berkeley, or as you mentioned, maybe yourself. One last question, and by the way, Ricardo, we really appreciate you joining us to end our Higher Ed Week these past 2 weeks. One last question as it relates to the COVID world that we live in too. So without having to have you guess and make predictions, is there anything official that you know about of a changing, if with the assumption hopefully that students are going to be back on campus in the fall or whenever they do come back? Are there changes in like, say, dorm capacities? Are there changes in academic halls, or are classes going to be done a little bit differently that is official that you can pass along to students and their families?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, the only official word we have is for spring. And so first and foremost, safety is, of the utmost importance for our students. And so for the spring term coming up, we are going to continue this model of online remote instruction. There is some very limited in-person classes, in particular those that require like lab and in-person kind of hands-on work. And then we do have some students that are staying on our campus in the dorms. Everything is split up. We have about 2,000 students right now, and it is a priority list. And so we really prioritize students that, for example, might be homeless, students that, for example, might need to be closer to campus. And so we do have a very small set of students that are on campus. And so for spring, we're still looking at being remote. And in the fall, it's still kind of up in the air, depending on just kind of how this pandemic plays out. But definitely safety is of the utmost importance. And I am super hoping that you all get to experience campus life, not just at Berkeley, but wherever you go, because that's also a part of the college experience is actually being there, physically present. And again, like being away from familia, right, to help you grow is also something that is a part of that in-person experience. So that's where we're at right now, but fingers crossed that, things get better, and by the fall term, when you all apply, we can welcome you physically on our campus.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ricardo. Such great information about the University of California, Berkeley. As Todd mentioned, we can't thank you enough for joining us today. We have students every year that apply. We have students from Imperial County that are at Berkeley as we speak, right? And so we have great students here in Imperial County, and look forward to all the students who will apply and be admitted to your college. So thanks for joining us today, and hopefully we'll be able to see you again for Higher Ed Week 2.